The day was scarcely broken when the fog still hung over the Danube. I stood among the ranks of our battalion near the village of Oberglau. Orders were passed quickly down the line. General Marlborough intended a general assault against the French and Bavarian positions. We had marched since midnight, soaked from crossing streams, yet every man stood ready. The sun rose with a fierce heat, burning the mist away to reveal the enemy. Before us, stretched between the villages of Blenheim and Lutzingen, stood the massed armies of Marshal Tallard and the Elector of Bavaria. Their cannon had already opened upon us, and we returned fire with what guns we could bring forward. At 10 o'clock our centre advanced, led by Lord Cutts. The assault on Blenheim itself began in earnest. The French had garrisoned it well, and our men faced a murderous fire from the houses and hedgerows. Regiment after regiment was thrown back, but fresh waves came on. It was a slaughter in the village streets. Then the Duke gave the signal for our cavalry, under General Lumley, to press the French left. At the same moment, Prince Eugene's forces on the right made another push. The French were stout, but our horse outflanked them, and their lines began to falter. By afternoon, I saw panic take hold among the French. A great number had tried to rally near the Danube, but the river cut them off. I watched through my glass as thousands flung themselves into the water, desperate to escape. Many were drowned. We took Blenheim by bayonet before the day's end. The French threw down their arms en masse. It is said over 11,000 of them surrendered in that village alone. Their general, the Marquis de Clermont-Bol, was slain, and Marshal Tallard was taken prisoner and brought before Marlborough himself. That evening I walked the field. Never in my life had I seen such destruction, so many fine men fallen. But it was a great victory. The French pride has been humbled, and the Elector of Bavaria is in full retreat. Europe shall mark this day.
Sir, it is with trembling hand I write these lines. So lately have I come from the very jaws of death. On the 13th, our army engaged the French and Bavarians in a bloody contest, near the village of Blenheim. I write not to boast, but to convey the horror and glory of that day. Our march began at 2 in the morning. The men were in good spirits, though we had little bread, and most had not slept a wink. We reached our positions at dawn, the Danube glistening to our right, and the enemy plainly arrayed in a great line between the villages of Blenheim and Lutzingen. The battle began in earnest at midday. My regiment was ordered to support the left flank of the assault on Blenheim. The French had fortified the village, and their musketry tore through our front ranks. I saw brave Major Withers fall beside me, his head taken clean off by a cannonball. We pressed forward still. The heat was intolerable. Powder smoke hung thick as a fog. I could scarce see 10 yards ahead, but the shouting, the drums, the cries of the wounded, they guided us on. The ground was slick with blood and bodies. Never have I known such fury. When the cavalry under Lord Orkney made their charge in the centre, I could hear the thundering hoofs over the din. It was a terrible sight, French squadrons thrown into confusion, their lines broken. Word passed that Prince Eugene had pressed Marsin hard on the right, drawing off many of their reserves. By late afternoon, the French resistance began to crumble. Those in Blenheim fell back to the church and gardens, surrounded on all sides. Our men poured in, and after desperate fighting, the white flags were raised. Over 10,000 men laid down their arms in that village. The Danube swallowed many more as they tried to escape. I saw French soldiers dragged beneath the current, by their heavy coats and breastplates. Marshal Tallard was taken and brought before our Lord Duke, who treated him with civility, though the Frenchman wept bitterly. We slept on the field that night, amidst the dead and dying. I gave my cloak to a wounded corporal who would not last till morning. God help his soul. It is said the victory has saved the Empire. We have struck a blow from which Louis's pride may not soon recover. I thank God I live to see the day, though I carry the images in my mind as a torment. Your most humble servant, Captain Robert Parker.
We had marched from our camp near Schwenningen in the dead of night, and by dawn were drawn up in battle order near the marshy ground around the Nebel stream. The enemy were in great strength, occupying a good line between the village of Blenheim and Lutzingen, and they showed much confidence. The Duke himself passed down our line before the action commenced, speaking calmly to the men and reminding us that this day would determine the fate of the Empire. The men answered with huzzas, though many of us looked upon the strength of the French position with unease. Our regiment, the Queen's, was ordered to support the assault across the Nebel under Lord Cutts. The stream was swollen, the ground soft and treacherous. We passed under heavy fire from enemy cannon and musketry before even reaching the far bank. Many fell before firing a shot. Once across, we pressed on toward Blenheim, though our ranks were thinned. The French defended the village with admirable determination. The streets were barricaded, and every house was a redoubt. We engaged in savage close-quarter fighting. Bayonet and butt were more useful than powder and ball. Some of our men became trapped in lanes too narrow to deploy. The enemy poured fire from upper windows, and our losses mounted. Yet we held our ground. Reinforcements were fed in, and slowly, house by house, the village was taken. I remember seeing the grenadiers of the Royal Scots storm a barn where French officers had gathered. The structure was set ablaze, and the smoke drove many out. They surrendered rather than burn. Near the close of the day, the French centre collapsed under the weight of our cavalry. I saw squadrons of French horse turn and flee in disorder. Their left was in ruin, their right in retreat. Thousands sought the river, but drowned in the crossing. By 6 o'clock, the field was ours. Blenheim itself was packed with prisoners. Some say over 10,000 men and officers, shoulder to shoulder, too many to guard properly. I had never before seen such a field. Our loss was grievous. Many good comrades lay cold, but the enemy's was total. Their pride is broken, and the road to Vienna is now secure. My duty is to remember them all, those who fell with honor. For though we won a great victory, it came at the highest price. Sergeant-Major Richard Kane.